There is an unexpected benefit of President Trump's presidency which has become evident in the very short time that he's been behind the Resolute desk. He will never win the Nobel Peace Prize, but if there is a Charlemagne Prize for unintentionally fostering European unity, he would be a strong contender. Trump, through his erratic diplomacy, for his disdain for alliances, for his embrace of nationalist populism, has inadvertently achieved what decades of European bureaucrats and visionaries could not. He has made Europe wake up to its own strength. He has brought Europe together to the point where Britain is now, even post Brexit, considering itself in alliance with Europe. At first glance, this seems counterintuitive. Trump's foreign policy, marked by America first, hostility towards NATO, overtures to Russia, has often been perceived as a threat to European stability. But just as a forest fire clears deadwood and allows for new growth, Trump's actions have spurred Europe into taking steps towards greater autonomy, resilience, and cooperation. And there are three key areas where his presidency has accelerated European unity: defence, economic integration, and the post-Brexit reconciliation. So let's go through these. For decades, Europe has been content to free ride on American military power. NATO, the linchpin of the transatlantic security system, has functioned with the US as its undisputed leader, but Trump's repeated threats to abandon NATO, his insistence that Europe must pay its fair share, has forced European leaders to confront a difficult reality. They can no longer rely on Washington. And even if they thought they can, all they have to do is look at what Washington has done to Ukraine, and they know that Washington is no longer a reliable, a trustworthy, and honest ally. European defence spending is increasing dramatically as a result. The EU has created its first defence fund, raising €150 billion to strengthen European military capabilities. Countries like Germany, long resistant to militarisation due to its historical baggage, is now embracing rearmament. Friedrich Merz, expected to set out the new plans, has indicated a willingness to break with traditional fiscal conservatism to spend on defence. One French businessman has put it starkly: the Germans don't sell their cars, the Germans can't sell their cars, so they will make tanks. And Trump's approach to Ukraine, halting intelligence sharing and cutting military aid, has been a wake-up call. The UK now realises that whether the US resumes support or not, Europe must prepare to stand alone, because it can't rely on a president in Washington like Trump. The second point, Trump's unpredictability has also had economic consequences. His capricious approach to trade, imposing tariffs on European goods, threatening the car industries, engaging in currency manipulation, has weakened confidence in the US dollar as the world's dominant currency. For Europe, this is an opportunity. The taboo on joint European debt, long resisted by fiscally conservative nations like Germany and the Netherlands, has started to erode, and the pandemic has forced the EU to issue common debt. And now, with growing military and strategic ambitions, there's a new rationale for continuing down this path. Would that Britain was among them. The euro, once seen as a mere convenience, is now being positioned as a real alternative to the US dollar. And Trump's volatility in financial markets has made global investors consider shifting their assets towards European bonds. The EU has started discussing how to build up its financial sovereignty, reducing reliance on the US financial system. This is a fundamental shift. If Trumpism continues, Europe may emerge as an economic fortress, one with its own reserve currency, independent of the whims of Washington. And then there's Brexit, and Trump's hostility to Europe paradoxically has helped Britain and the EU repair their relationship, and that can only continue for the better. Brexit created a bitter divide. It distracted Europe to such an extent that Putin was able to invade Ukraine. But Trump's America has provided both London and Brussels with a common cause, defending European stability. And Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron have emerged as a pair, working closely on both Ukraine and wider European security. And the UK, once reluctant to engage in European military initiatives, is now considering participation in an EU defence fund. This creates an opportunity for pragmatic post-Brexit partnership. one that sidesteps the defensive politics of rejoining the EU while allowing Britain to engage in security and trade. It also sets a pattern which could be replicated by other countries just outside the EU family, like Turkey. The irony is that Trump, an ardent supporter of Brexit, has inadvertently set the stage for a renewed Anglo-European partnership, one based on necessity rather than ideology. And all major steps towards European unity have been responses to crises. The European Union was born from the devastation of a crisis from World War II, and the Eurozone was strengthened in response to financial shocks. And now Trump's America has created the conditions for a more sovereign, more self-sufficient Europe. For years, Europe defined itself in opposition to Russia, seeing the Kremlin as its greatest challenge. But Russia has a European soul. Beneath its bluster and its aggression lies a culture that in the long term may yet find more common ground with the West. I hope it does. Trump's America. I've lived in Russia. I know how European Russia can be. And I fight for that day when we will be standing shoulder to shoulder with our Russian friends again. Trump's America, however, presents something entirely different. The language of Trump is not the language of Europe. It's a language of greed, of deceit, of confusion. It's an ideology that undermines democratic norms. It glorifies the strongman. It abandons global leadership. Now, I don't think that is really the true heart of America. But if that's what America wants to have over the next 4 years, 8 years, however, it's something that we must resist. Europe's response to Trump is not just about policy, it's about identity. What kind of Europe does it want to be? And if the answer is a sovereign, self-reliant and strategically independent power, then Trump, in his own way, may be the catalyst that makes that happen. It's said that history moves in paradoxes. The greatest adversaries can sometimes turn out to be the greatest teachers, and Donald Trump will never be a European ally. But his presidency may well be remembered as the moment when Europe truly grew up, when it stopped waiting for American leadership, when it realized that the transatlantic alliance, while valuable, may no longer be taken for granted. You can't rely on it. So while Trump may never stand on a stage in Oslo and receive the Nobel Peace Prize, history will one day acknowledge his unintended legacy, because it was Trump that made a stronger, more united Europe. And that, perhaps, is the greatest irony of all. And what is extraordinary is that seems to be evident in the first 6 weeks of his tenure.